What's going on, everybody? This is Moose and Brian here from OccupyFantasy.com, at OccupyFantasy on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm your host, co-founder, and data guru here at OccupyFantasy, at CFB_Moose on Twitter is where you can find me. I'm alongside Brian at BrianJesterFF on Twitter, co-founder and CEO of Occupy Fantasy, and my brother. And we'll be meeting up pretty soon for Thanksgiving. What's up, Brian?
What's up, Moose? Happy Thanksgiving week. Good to be here talking to you. We got 2 streams in 2 days. We got this review tonight, high-level discussion, and just kind of a hangout during the week, commiserate over my results. And then tomorrow we'll have the Thanksgiving stream. We'll bring the short slate GOAT Jack on to discuss Thanksgiving-specific strategy. So 2 live streams in 2 days. For those of you watching this, I hope you feel blessed.
It reminds me back of our League of Legends days where we did like 38 streams in a row.
Those are pretty sick. Those are pretty good days.
Those are really good days. Do a League of Legends stream at like 11 p.m. Go to sleep for an hour. Do some KBO. Do it all over again. Great times.
That was more than a year ago, which seems crazy.
It's absolutely nuts. I kind of miss it. I kind of don't.
I don't miss waking up in the middle of the night. I very much miss those bankroll boosts.
Exactly.
Especially just about to see coming up here in a bit.
Exactly, yeah. So this is the $1 Million Mission, where we take a look at Brian's results at 150 maxing, DraftKings and FanDuel, the NFL Classic slates. Take a look at his results, see what he did right, what he did wrong, and we take a look at other winners, other professionals, see what they've done, and we all try and learn from the process. We answer your questions as we go along as well. So if you're watching us live, go ahead and say hello. If you have a question during this time, go ahead and post your comment or question as well. If you're watching a replay of this on YouTube, go ahead and comment down below. We'll make sure to go ahead and get your question answered. So, Brian, let's jump right into this. Let's take a look at how you did on DraftKings Week 11. $5,100 in entries, $1,688 in winnings for a floor of basically your new DraftKings floor minus 67%. You were almost nice. You were almost nice.
So close to being so nice. And yeah, so pretty poor week. Obviously, most of the stacks went in the dumpster with Kansas City and Dallas, with Cincinnati and Las Vegas. As Chris said, I think it was Sunday night or Monday, the fact that I was publicly off of the Green Bay Minnesota stack that was in the plug, that's generally a sign that stack goes off. We've seen it happen countless times. Happened again this week. If I'd have stuck with that, I still don't think I would have won GPPs just based on my player pool, but would have had a higher ROI. And funny thing about the DraftKings ROI, it's much higher than FanDuel. Most if you bring that up on screen, and I'll explain why that is, and people won't believe it.
Yeah. So for Week 11 for FanDuel, $5,400 in entries, 205 in winnings for a minus 96% ROI. I'll be honest, Brian. When I saw this, I was actually pretty mad and had some questions, and I was actually going to grill you pretty hard.
Let's hear it. I'll start by saying.
Yeah, so explain your rationale first on why this week was so bad.
So for FanDuel, I couldn't really find a third stack that I liked that much, right? We said it on Saturday, really liked the Kansas City Dallas game, really liked the Las Vegas Cincinnati game. And on FanDuel, where I didn't need any salary savings, where I was locking Jeff Wilson, I just went with those 4 quarterbacks. And so when they both games busted, that means all of my lineups had a quarterback with less than 15 points. All of my lineups had 3-man game stacks, basically, that were terrible. So obviously that's why it happened. The reason my ROI was higher on DraftKings is because I actually did stack Joe Flacco. I actually did stack Tua Tagovailoa. And those lineups actually did decently well, at least compared to the other game stacks. And that's saving about 30% of ROI. But all the jokes we had, I did end up playing that stack, and I thought it made more sense on DraftKings where you generally need the salary savings. So yeah, so that's what I did. Now I'm eagerly awaiting your grilling.
Yeah, so we'll get to it later, but the one thing that you and I were both completely different on was the Jonathan Taylor situation, which we'll get to after this. But only stacking 2 games, and we talk about it where 6 quarterbacks is usually around the optimal way because you get equal exposure without overexposing yourself to like 40% Byron Pringle and like wide receiver 5. So my question to you is, instead of just doing the 2 game stacks and spreading yourself way thin, why not just pick a third stack And I mean, not to say that it, like, obviously the results show that it was bad by what you did. Not necessarily what you did was bad, but the outcome was bad. So, like, why not just pick a third stack, whether it was that Miami and New York Jets or Minnesota, Green Bay, just like any stack, even like the freaking Houston game. Like, I was just wondering, like, why not pick a third stack instead of spreading yourself way thin on 2 games?
Well, the way I looked at it was those 2 games were in a tier all by themselves, and I didn't want to waste 33% of my allocation on stacks that I didn't even like or couldn't find real reasons to play. Instead, my logic was, if one of these game stacks go off, I now have 75 lineups to find a different combination to get to the top of the leaderboard. And again, that's not the optimal approach based on what we've researched in the past. We found that three games, 6 quarterbacks is the sweet spot for 150 maxing. But I'm trying to be flexible and not trying to be too rigid. Even if I did pick a third game stack, it would have been Tua. It would have been maybe Ryan Tannehill, maybe Josh Allen, and that could have gotten me some JT exposure. But I was never on JT, and I wasn't going to win a GPP without him yesterday or Sunday.
Yeah, you and I were. It was pretty interesting when you and I were going back, looking at each of our exposures. You had I think you actually had 0 JT, right?
Literally 0 in 300 lineups on both sides.
Yeah, and on the other side, I had like 22 or something percent. So when he was crushing, I was like, oh, he's crushing. I thought everyone was kind of on him, and you were like, I have 0%. I was like, oh, that sucks.
Well, so for me, we talked about it on Saturday, and I said it was the week of the mid-range running back, cheaper running back with Jeff Wilson, and I just wanted to hammer those values. Mark Ingram, A.J. Dillon. I just wanted to get as much of those guys as I could. And JT at his price, obviously I wanted some because he does have ceiling potential, as we clearly saw on Sunday. But to me, I was thinking, okay, the most I can really get if I'm trying to get all these stud receivers in is like 8% Jonathan Taylor. Mm-hmm. Granted, he was only 3 or 4% owned, so it's still double leverage. But I was thinking to myself, is it really worth trying to jam in 8%? When I had Jonathan Taylor in my player pool, I didn't like the rest of my exposures. I removed Jonathan Taylor. I love the rest of my exposures, and my thought was, okay, as long as he doesn't I need him not to get like 3 or 4 touchdowns, and I can make that up with other receivers. Mm-hmm. I mean, he has an otherworldly game with 5 touchdowns and 56 DraftKings points. That's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to make some tough cuts sometimes. It just seems that at least recently, especially in the middle of a down streak, that those running back cuts I've been making have been the ones that have been breaking the slate, which always makes you question your process.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense from a high level perspective to cut out a running back who's 3%. Whereas if it's a running back that's 30% you're cutting out, you might want to rethink your process there.
Yes.
But while we're on the subject of running backs, let's talk about Jeff Wilson for a little bit. Seemed like a great play overall. I'm surprised I didn't see more things on Twitter about, was Jeff Wilson a good play in GPPs? I still think he was. He had 20 opportunities or something like that. Only needed just a couple points to really hit value. I think on DraftKings, the 3rd place lineup in the Million Maker had Jeff Wilson in it. If he does literally anything, the guy crushes with $1 million.
Yeah. I mean, multiple small field contests were won with him. I think Papa Gates won the 3-3-3, the Wildcat on DraftKings with Jeff Wilson in his lineup. Oxen Duck again won the 4-4-4-4. We talked about him when we were revisiting the game stack theories about him being a great projections player. He won the 4-4-4 again this week. That's 2 times in 4 weeks he's won the 4-4-4-4. Had Jeff Wilson in his lineup. And I mean, we can't be results oriented here. What we look at is opportunity. That's the basis of everything we do here. Mm-hmm. And when we see a guy who was minimum price on FanDuel, basically got 18 rushing attempts, 2 targets, 5 opportunities inside the 5-yard line, regardless of what he does, right? That's a great play. That's a great lock button play. He literally had a floor outcome. Jimmy G missed him for a wide open touchdown. He was stopped on the 1 multiple times. Again, I'm not gonna, and again, if I had JT and Wilson sucked and he was the reason it cost me, sure, I'd be pretty upset. But nothing went right this week, so I'm not gonna be upset at Jeff Wilson when the process was very good.
Exactly, yeah. I see we got some people here in the chat. What's up, Johnny? Always glad to see you here. He says, wasn't the Green Bay Minnesota game the second game written up in the plug? Should the order of how they are written up and shown in the plug matter to us readers? And Chris answers yes, they are order and preference. Yep. So answer that question.
If yeah, I just gotta learn just to trust Chris more. That's really what it comes down to at this point.
Jordan says, is it safe to say Jonathan Taylor is matchup proof at this point?
Pretty safe to say. I would think so. After what he did to Buffalo, after what he's done all year, definitely matchup proof. Can we expect 3 touchdowns plus per game? No. We'll see. We'll see pricing and ownership, and we'll talk about it on Saturday. But I'm not gonna rush to jam him into every lineup because Moose, right? Like he's getting there. Obviously, his rushing yards over expectation are fantastic. Mm-hmm. He's like absolutely destroying the league in red zone carries, goal line carries. So obviously the touchdown, like the expected touchdown, he leads the league in expected touchdowns. He's still overperformed because he's been really good. But he's not like CMC in the fact that he has a 10 reception upside that can buoy him in any game script. And that's the big difference between JT and CMC as far as jamming him in as a DFS play.
And it also helps when your defense gets like 3 turnovers in the red zone.
Yes, that also. You know how bad the week was when it got to the point we were only in the second quarter, and I said to myself, all right, if Taylor only scores 1 more touchdown, I can survive it. And I kept saying that, and then I'm just like in a fetal position on my couch, and Jonathan Taylor has 5 touchdowns and 200 yards, and so it's certainly rough.
Definitely. So we got Lucas here in the chat. He says no work tomorrow. Finally get to join in live. LFG, nice. For those who don't know, Lucas is our college football writer, niche sports writer. He's crushing it in college football. Check out his daily plug. Comes out on Saturdays for the college main slate. He's racked up some pretty big tickets, so I'm really excited to see how he does for that.
Dude, Lucas has 3 entries to the College Football World Championship, and literally the plays he puts in the plug, he puts in his lineups. Underperforming wide receivers, if you love them for NFL, they're in college football. Lucas prints money off that. Moose, you're the ones who creates them. So if you like money, you like niche sports, you like avoiding sharks, go play some CFP with Lucas.
Definitely. Where there's super flex and people play tight end and super flex.
People can't get enough of tight end and flex.
I know, right? Frederick says, hey guys, I finally took down the member contest. Now if I can only take down the Millie.
I mean, what's more prestigious, Moose? Like the member contest or the Millie? To me, I would argue maybe the Occupy Fantasy contest a little more prestigious.
Well, yeah, you got to start somewhere though, too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, real quick, so if we take a look at how you've done year to date, a little over 87K in entries, a little under 56K in winnings for minus 36% ROI.
I will say, and I'll just say this: I don't care. It's on stream, right? We're very transparent here. Obviously, this a losing number. Mentioned it last week. The timing of the wins is going to make the ROI look higher or lower than it actually is going to end up being at the end of the year. So minus 36%, I think it's the lowest number I've had, like on a stream since we started doing this. But again, it's just been the timing. Yes, it's last week. Yes. So not worried about that. However, I did because I had in a tradition for DFS players, I updated my roto tracker this morning. After my UFC win, because I didn't want to update it during the midst of a long losing streak.
Yeah.
And my total entry fees across all sports this year was an eye-popping number. And I mean, there's no story to this. It's just it was an eye-popping number, and I thought it was interesting.
In a good way or a bad way?
The total entry fees, yeah, it hit the 7-figure mark, which is kind of wild.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Pretty nuts. Yeah.
That's pretty nuts. Yeah, so and then let's take a look at how we did in this is the $1 Million Mission. So we're taking a look at how we do in the DraftKings Pick'em pool. The entry that I have is it's in 404th place. We went 3-2 last week. We picked the Jets every week, and they never cover.
Dude, we should have picked the Eagles like we normally do. We picked the Eagles pretty much every week, and we didn't take them this week. And of course,
we picked the Eagles, the football team, and the Jets, and just go awful every week. But hey, we went 4-1 last week, 3-2 this week. We've moved up 300 spots the last 2 weeks. Yep. The process we have is pretty refined. I like it, and I think it's 135 spots get paid. So just one 5-0 week or 4-1 week really can put us up there.
Yeah, and we're 35 games left in the season as far as number of picks go. So we got plenty of time to move up here. I don't know if we'll be able to win it unless we just go flaming hot over the last 7 weeks. But we can certainly cash, and a cash is for a top 5% that cash, it's a pretty good number. So we would certainly take that.
Exactly. Yep. And then in good old the DraftKings Survivor, there's 4% of entries left.
Yes.
We have one of three left. We picked Cleveland last week, which Jesus Christ, I did not have to. I didn't want to have to sweat again. But hey, there we are. What would be the DraftKings Survivor if we didn't have the 37th sweat of the season and through week
Dude,
11?
always sweats. And I think we're almost. Maybe after this week, maybe it's this week. We might be at the point where the $1 Million Mission series is now about the Survivor, because
Yeah.
we started with 2,600 entries. It's $1 million to first. We're down to 105 entries. Moose and I are in an incredible spot. We have it all mapped out. And Moose, I gotta say, some of the simulations we've done and mapping out that we've done, we're in an even better spot than the field than we thought we would be. And because as I think we talked about week 0, week 1, we talked about how you have to have a strategy long term for Survivor. You can't just survive to next week and figure it out. And we held true to that. We basically had Dallas versus the Raiders circled on our mapped out schedule in week 12, like since the beginning, right?
Yeah, literally.
Like,
and what's awesome about this is we've planned that out. We circled it and said this is like the only spot we can really pick Dallas. There's no one else. Dallas is 7.5-point favorite. Next closest is New England at 5.5, and everyone else is like 3 or under. And then if you take a look at what we like to call the availability chart, coined the term from Circa Sports, and only like 30% of people can pick Dallas this week. So I think
so 70% of the 105 have already used Dallas when that's the optimal spot this week. And I thought it'd be way higher. I thought we'd be competing with a lot of people this week, because I figured sharpish contest that people would have this spot saved for Dallas. Not the case. So now we're in a spot where 4% of the pool's left for $1 million, and 70% of them have to take a less than touchdown favorite.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for a better spot than that.
No, you really can't, dude. Well, I'm starting to get excited about this. We ran our simulations, and we have like a 15% chance of making it to week 18 based on the win probabilities. And Moose, I think if we say this every week and that percentage jumps up, if I'd have told you when we did our week 0 stream that we had a 15% chance of winning a milli, I think we'd take that.
Yes, I absolutely would. Now, I do want to point out who's been really helpful a lot during this indirectly is Circa Sports, because they do have a Survivor contest out in Vegas. It's $1,000 entry. I think it's actually more than $1 million to first, but it's definitely $1 million to first. They have some pretty interesting rules where this Thanksgiving Thursday is considered a contest week. So you have to pick a contest. So you have to pick a team from that Thursday, and then again on Sunday. So they have a 20-week Survivor. And when we looked at the availability chart between Circa and the DraftKings one, we're like, dude, why did only like 30% of people pick Dallas and Circa so far? And then we looked, oh, that's a rule. Okay, so they're super sharp because they have to use that. People are going to have Dallas circled for that specific week. So I think what the long-term strategy is that, excuse me, so we've talked about it stream before. Use these other pools that publish their percentages as kind of what your pool is going to be, because all pools are pretty much, large pools are going to be the same. After this Thursday, it gets a little tricky.
Yes,
because
it does.
People have to pick differently.
Right. So that it will get a little trickier, but I think we'll be able, because at this point we're able to kind of deduce who's taking what team and what's left and what's the best pick. I think we can figure it out mostly. But this all comes back to, as we start the transition back to the DFS part of the show, it's all about, if you can project what the field's going to do, you're ahead of the game in any type of contest or game, right? We talk about it when we do our March Madness streams, right? Using the ESPN and Yahoo public pick percentage to know what the field's going to do in your own pool. We talked about it for this, using the public percentages from ESPN, Yahoo, and now Circa. And then in DFS, using projected ownership and knowing what the field's going to do. And by being able to develop a strategy around what the field's going to do, you automatically drastically increase your win probability, which is what we're all about here.
Exactly. Yep. So tune in next time to see next $1 Million Mission, see who we picked, or just honestly just follow us in Discord, occupyfantasy.com/Discord. We usually post who we picked in Survivor as the games lock, and so you all can sweat it with us. Let's see. So we got some questions in here as well. Some chat messages from Johnny says, random question: will you guys ever provide soccer content? I love you guys, and I think you guys could help us crush soccer.
I mean, it's tough. We would have to find someone that we know and trust to write about soccer. We probably wouldn't be able to do a model just based on it. We get some random requests for sports every now and then. NASCAR is one of them, but it would have to be a perfect storm of events for us to offer soccer content. And right now, in the immediate future, we don't have that. That can always change, though.
Yeah, I can barely hold enough models as it is. I appreciate that though. Let's see here. Yeah, if you just back to that really quick, we do have the soccer channel in our Discord. Again, nothing official from Occupy is published there, but if you want to chat it up, I'm sure there's other people in there that would love to talk about it with you.
Sure.
Lucas says, Moose prints the money. We have a back-to-back offender on the CFB underperforming wide receiver week. This week might be a big week. I wish I had the stats, but there's this guy who has like 700 air yards the last 3 weeks.
Shit. Jesus. Air raid for real.
Definitely. Ed, what's up? 69th in the Flea Flicker Sunday. It's getting closer. Freaking Connor gets 3 shots inside the one, only gets 1. So close. And
Damn.
when is the Thanksgiving live stream?
That'll be tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. It's already scheduled on our channel page, so you can always check it out there. But again, me, Moose, and Jack, 5 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday.
Yep. Frederick says, if you like Dallas for Survivor, do you like a Cowboy stack for Thanksgiving lineups and GPPs? Guess on that note, when will the plug for Thanksgiving slate be up?
Sometime tomorrow afternoon-ish. Not 100% sure on the exact time. Chris and I will be working on it in the morning. Probably before the live stream, so before 5 p.m. tomorrow. As far as Cowboy stacks Thanksgiving, we'll talk about that in tomorrow's stream. We're not going to do any Thanksgiving content here today. I'll give you a little preview, and I'll say no just based on some game theory stuff.
Okay.
We just like Dallas to win that game. That's all it is.
Yeah. Abel says, good 5-1 call on Monday Night Football, gents. I hope you did well. That's awesome. And then Ken says, still waiting on the $10,600 MLS 3-player strategy.
Yeah, we're waiting on Chris to produce those videos. So, if you're watching this, Chris, get to work on that 3-man MLS soccer lineup construction tips.
Yep. Let's see. So we get rid of this. And let me see. That's all the things that we've had caught up for last week. Let's hop over to Fantasy Labs really quick. Their contest dashboard is free. Check it out at fantasylabs.com. And thought I had it on the $20 slate, but here it is. So Brian, we pull up Fantasy Labs. I'm gonna go ahead and pull your name up. But the one takeaway you had from the slate, minus that we haven't talked about, excluding the Jeff Wilson, JT thing. Anything that really stuck out to you that you can apply for future slates?
I don't think, not really. I'll say I 3-1 stacked all the games except the Jets and the Dolphins game. Mm-hmm. And I'll talk about that for a little bit. I mostly 2-1 stacked that game because all the pieces were so cheap. Yeah. So cheap. So it's not like you need that game to really go off, right? If you just get 2 pieces right, that's enough to win. I mean, we saw it on FanDuel. Flacco was in the winning lineup. Mm-hmm. And Jordan in the chat says, did you see the $1 million winner this week? The worst lineup I've ever seen. Yeah, both FanDuel and DraftKings had literally the worst lineups we've ever seen win $1 million. Like, it's not even remotely close. There's been some bad ones. These were pretty bad this week. And maybe we could just talk about that, Moose, because I think, it's hilarious to talk about. We'll high five, and I'll gladly welcome this dude into the $1 million club. But my God, what a ridiculous lineup!
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just get there. It's like you're at a frat party. You wake up, your arm's broke, but you hooked up with someone, so it's a high five. Like it's a pretty bad line. I don't know where that reference came from, but
not about the process, but you ended up
results over process.
Can I tell a story about a college party one time?
Sure.
So since we're waiting some questions here, so we had a Halloween party one time at our I was post college, but we had some college people. It was a big house. We always had like 7 or 8 people living there at once. It was a big house, and we always had these big parties. And one time we had a Halloween party, and at some point, one guy got locked out of the house, and he was supposed to be sleeping over. And my friend, friend of the show, Bobby Tuggs, he was at the party with us. He spent the night at our house. The next morning he wakes up and he comes back into the house and he knocks on my door and he's like, "Dude, you're not gonna believe what I just seen." I was like, "What?" He goes, "There is a fucking Teletubby in my car." That's what? What are you talking about? So this guy who came to our party was in a Teletubby costume, and you figure it's October, it was freezing cold.
Yeah.
He gets locked out of the house at like 3 a.m. He tells us the next day he's trying to like scale windows to get back inside the house because nowhere to go, nowhere to sleep. Finally, he was like, he realized I'm not getting back inside the house. So he just started trying to open different car doors and sleep in a car. Of course, Bob's car door is unlocked. He opens his door, sleeps in his front seat behind the steering wheel. So Bob, the next morning, goes out to like get some cigarettes or get something, and he just had to like, in the greatest surprise of all time, there's just a full-blown Teletubby sleeping in his car. And so I don't know how this relates to process the results, but that's an interesting story.
Yeah, we need to have a separate show about the mansion parties, which was hell of a time.
There would be we would need the 18+ filter on for sure.
Oh yeah, that's definitely Occupy After Dark.
Yeah. Yes, 100%.
Definitely. All right. Shoot. God damn it! I hit the wrong button. Accidentally closed out of the tab.
Well, anyway, so while you're waiting to get it back,
we're good.
You got it back?
I think we're good now. We're actually not, but let me change it.
Yeah, both sites winners were pretty wild this week.
All right, so Sugarfinger Moose closed out of the tab, and now here we are. So let's go up to the lineup dashboard, which had the very rare, if I'm correct, the 1-1 stack. Right?
No, there was a 2-1 because it included the 0.1% Tommy Tremble at tight end.
Yes, that's right.
The showdown play in a main slate. Yes.
So if you see here on the right side of your screen, you see, Cam Newton, Tommy Tremble,
running back with McLaurin.
Just nuts. Really quick, I want to point out Cam Newton. There was the report saying how like Cam Newton's going to start, but PJ Walker might come in, mix it around a little bit, which kind of threw us off. If that report doesn't come out from that rogue reporter and they say Cam Newton's starting, he's going to play a full game, I almost think that game probably would have been a game stack, or at least some sort of consideration of a stack.
Sure, and I think our model picked up on that a little bit. It did like it, and Ed in the chat says, "Can we talk about how the model picked up on Flacco?" Yeah, it was a function of price, Miami's blitz heavy nature, Flacco's performance against the blitz. It actually, that was pretty amazing. I'll give the model credit on that. But I'll say one thing about this, Moose, and we get this question a lot. It's like, how different does my tournament lineup have to be? How low owned does it have to be? How many do I have to fade all the popular players? And generally, we see that. And I was actually talking to Niramata about this morning, in the sense that the NFL is the biggest fantasy sport there is, right? It's not close. As far as volume, the amount of content out there, it's not close. And we have 6 days from the time the salaries drop until the games start on Sunday to develop who the best plays are, read injuries, like figure out everything, right? So when a guy is 20% owned, he's 20% owned for a damn good reason, right? So this means that in a lineup where you have no player over 10% owned, only one over 5% owned, that you're literally ignoring every single good play on the board. And, there's merit to fading some of the good plays, but fading all the good plays is generally a pretty bad process. And we'll see most tournament winners have some of the good plays. So while this can certainly win, and Jackson 205 did win, we're going to see it from time to time that the odds of someone winning with this type of lineup is pretty high, just because there's the sheer amount of it happening. Yeah. But the odds of you, I'm pointing the camera, you, the individual watching this or reading, is basically zero. Yeah. So that's a big difference. And a lot of people try to recap the slate and research and figure out what to do and apply that to their future lineups. There's a big difference in what is likely to happen and what's likely for you specifically to happen.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much on point. And, Jordan points out, has there ever been a Millie winner with every single player in single-digit ownership? I honestly don't think so. I think this
is the first, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, he hit all 8 lineup trends that Fantasy Labs considers a good lineup. So
sick.
the running back And defense correlation. Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
can't hate that.
But the funny thing is, right? He correlated DeAndre Swift, who's like a pass catching running back, with their defense. That's not even the correlation that you want. You want games where they're trailing and Swift has to catch up with passes, even though he ran for like a 70-yard touchdown. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, this one was pretty nuts to me to have like 3 plays under 1%.
yeah, and I will say the fact that when you have a player who like doubles the next highest score on the slate, like Jonathan Taylor, your lineup doesn't have to be perfect. Like Miles Sanders scored 8 points. Tommy Tremble, I don't even know if he had a stat, right?
Yeah, he had
you
5
can still
points.
win. Like he had 5 points. Okay, so there you go.
Yeah, that one's pretty nuts. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Pretty like, again. Jackson 205. Congrats on the Millie win. Like, you gotta give him the high five. But
Hey man, get an accountant, get an investor. Please don't start posting 10K head-to-heads.
buy a Bored Ape Yacht Club and call it a day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Was it a single bullet moose?
No, I think he had. Let's see. Is it gonna crash if I click this? Nope. Let's see. Jackson.
3 entries?
He had 3 entries.
Just a casual $999,940 profit. Not bad.
So he had Tremble in 2 of his 3 lineups.
What a beast. Even though Tremble scored 5 points.
Yeah, and Cam in 2 of his 3 lineups.
I mean, so sick. Just so sick.
I wish we were. I wish we had the ability to, again, in a no make fun of anyone zone. Like, if we could just interview the people in terms of, hey, no judgment zones. This is a safe space. Just talk me through your process on how you came up with these 3 lineups.
That should be amazing. That would just be golden content if we could somehow do that.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to throw shade at Jackson 205 or anyone like that. I genuinely am curious how you came up with your process. And
we asked 0 follow-up questions because then the follow-up questions would definitely be judgmental. We just, here's the list of 10 questions.
Yeah.
Answer them. Let people infer what they may.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So while we're here, let me pull up. It was where was it? I think it was Megan Joy who actually finished up near the top in the $20 one. I wanted to look at.
If she wins again, Jesus Christ.
No, it was. Did I spell her name right? It must have been.
It's MEAG.
Oh, MEAG.
After researching her lineups all the time, I know exactly how to spell her name.
Yep. If we go to her lineups, I wonder. I think it shows by most.
Yeah, it should show, right?
Let's see, 196.3. Okay, yeah, so it is in descending order. So she got 186 in this spot, and this was actually a 3x1 stack with Jeff Wilson. Again, shows Jeff Wilson pops off the pros crush.
Oh yeah, it was close.
Yeah.
It was definitely close. And real quick, this is what I want to ask you before we get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
You looked at what 150 maxers did versus non-150 maxers, and again, this is not like an appeal to authority. And they're not 150 maxers aren't always going to be right, but they're going to be right more often than not as far as process goes. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, Moose, but 150 maxers had way more Jeff Wilson than non-150 maxers. And what I was really curious about is what 150 maxers did with Jonathan Taylor, and it was roughly the same as the field. 150, non-150 basically had the same 3%, right?
Yeah, I think it was like yeah, it was basically the same. 3% of 150 150 maxers had 3% exposure of JT.
It wasn't like some super sharp play that we just missed out on. It was everyone thought he was a 3% play.
Exactly, yeah. So I think my girlfriend actually locked herself out of the apartment. So, Brian, do we have any last lingering thoughts, or can I take us out of here?
No, man. Get her in before she sleeps in somebody's car like a Teletubby.
Exactly, yep. So, if we didn't answer your question, Brian, if you can stick around, answer them in the chat, or if you're in Discord, post them in Discord, and we'll get them answered there. Until next time, Moose and Brian, have a good one.